Gratitude, greetings, and good morning, everyone. Today we are with a very special guest, and she is Uma. She has dedicated her life to understanding human emotions and empowering individuals to overcome challenges. And she's a counseling psychologist also and a life coach. So, if she also helps people who get stuck in their life or unlock their true potential and lead to a fulfilling life. Today, I am very excited to get deep on her journey. So, a very warm welcome, Uma. How are you?
Thank you so much, Shipra, for that very warm welcome. Loved it. Thank
Hmm.
you. Glad to be here.
And today, we are going to talk on a very specific topic and very important topic also, which is understanding your emotional boundaries and saying no without guilt. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, Uma, what are these emotional boundaries?
Shipra, I know we all have our own ideas of boundaries. So this is nothing new, but I'm going to put across my perspective of it, right? So to
Okay, right.
me, emotional boundary is an armor that I have within me, that I
Hmm.
carry within me in order to protect myself so that I can feel safe in
Hmm.
any situation, right?
Right.
Let's say, for example, in Mahabharata, we have all heard of this story of Arjuna, where he
Hmm.
had a kavach and a kundal that he was
Yes.
gifted by God, right? By his
Hmm.
Lord Surya, who was his father, so that he would get no harm from the outside. And
Right.
this was very invisible to the external world, but it
Hmm.
always protects Arjuna, I mean, Karna in a very specific way. So this is
Right.
our armor that we carry around in the world so that we feel protected in whatever ways we want to. If you want me
Hmm.
to expand a little more on that, let's say whenever we are in challenging situation, our mind is very tuned to think in opposites, right? We either think
Hmm.
right or wrong, good or bad. These are the ways our mind is generally trained to think. And when we think of safety, it is either I'm feeling safe or unsafe, right? When
Hmm.
we are in these two
Right.
extremes, it becomes a little challenging because emotional safety doesn't live in these extremes. It lives in
Hmm.
the gray area of uncertainty. So, how do
Right.
I manage uncertainty? If I don't know who I am, if I don't know
Hmm.
what I can offer in the situation, then it becomes a
Hmm.
very challenging situation, right? So, this
Right.
is my armor to handle all uncertain situations. That's how I look at
Hmm.
it.
Exactly. And also, why are these boundaries necessary?
Well, I can't say a few because I see the importance of it being so vast. But one
Hmm.
of the most important reasons these boundaries are necessary is because they protect us from our challenges. Like we learn patterns, right? And one of the
Right.
patterns we learn or run in our life is of being a people pleaser for many of us, right? Because
Exactly.
we constantly try to please the people we love. And
Hmm.
sometimes by being an over people pleaser, I cause harm to myself and to the relationships I'm in. So my
Hmm.
emotional boundaries help me draw a line there.
Right.
Secondly, some of the times when we are in going through emotional stresses, it is difficult to understand if I am taking somebody's emotion onto me or is this exactly my emotion. If the person
Right.
against me is anxious, I too get anxious without even
Hmm.
knowing if it's my own emotion, right? But if I
This
have
is
an
very
emotional
important.
boundary, yeah,
Hmm.
then I can make that the distinction that is this the other person's emotion I'm carrying now, or is it my own
Hmm.
emotion I'm carrying? That gives
Right.
me a lot of clarity and strength to handle it,
Hmm.
right? And the third
Right.
thing we do in relationships is we always try to become a savior.
Hmm.
We want to protect and love and support the people we love. And in the process, we don't know where to draw the line. And we
Hmm.
end up trying to save them even when they don't want to be.
Right.
So, having these boundaries for ourselves and respecting theirs helps us not go into that space again and again and actually
Hmm.
give them help where they need it instead of
Hmm.
assuming what they need.
Hmm.
So we can actually ask, how would you want me to help you here? That's a
Right.
very clear respect and a very clear
Hmm.
idea of how I can help. right? So that empowers them and empowers us to help deal with the situation much better.
Exactly. And also, why do so many people struggle with saying no, even when they have to
Well,
or they want to?
yeah, Shifta, I mean, that's a very important question because, you know, when we are children and we have to learn to say no, it's usually with a figure of authority, right? It's with people who are always elder to us. We are not
Hmm.
learning to say no with youngsters. The first time we may say no to a father, a mother, or a grandparent who are so much elder and so much, knowledge beyond us. And
Hmm.
when they don't accept our no, we
Hmm.
don't know how to deal with it. Because when they say no, we have to agree to it. But as a
Hmm.
child, if I learn to say no and it is not respected in my family,
Hmm.
then I learn that saying no is not okay. And
Exactly.
sometimes in families, it is even construed as disrespect or that the child is being ungrateful,
Hmm.
right? And when this is given back to the child with a lot of anger that you are being disrespectful, you are being selfish, you are being ungrateful
Hmm.
for all the things you are providing, instead of
Hmm.
actually understanding what the child's needs are there, then we
Hmm.
learn that saying no is bad. And it's a very scary place to be.
Exactly.
Right? So we try to please and please without saying no, which
Hmm.
becomes such a huge pattern over life that even
Hmm.
when we have grown up, we can't even say no to people younger than us.
Right.
Right? That is why
Hmm.
we carry so much of guilt around that because of the conditioning we have been in.
Hmm. Exactly. So we need to teach our children this.
Yeah, exactly. When my son was young, when I
Hmm.
used to put boundaries around him that this is not a toy you can play. No, no.
Hmm.
Within 2 months, the only word he would tell me was anything I did, I want to change his dress. No. I want to give
No.
you a phone. No. But then I could handle it with a little more love and care. So now he
Hmm.
has very good boundaries around him. He can say no without even worrying about how the other person will feel. There's not much guilt. But then with
Yes.
his grandparents, it may not have been the same situation,
Hmm.
you know. So
Right.
yeah, it's conditioning at many times.
Hmm. And also, Uma, how can we recognize that when we need to start setting boundaries?
When our boundaries are violated, one of
Hmm.
the um, challenges we feel within ourselves is that after conversations or after doing what we are needed to do, we feel emotionally very drained,
Right.
right? You feel that discomfort within you that you have done something that was not in
Hmm.
alignment with you.
Hmm.
And when you start recognizing this and you see this pattern repeated again and again, once or twice, we all do it. If it was the need of the hour, that is fine. But if it has
Hmm.
become a repeated pattern that every time I do something for this person, then I'm feeling very drained. That means somewhere boundaries are being taken for granted or boundaries are not being respected, and I'm
Hmm.
not feeling safe there, right?
Right.
Which makes me feel it's the emotional threat I feel. So
Hmm.
instead of feeling physically exhausted, I feel emotionally exhausted most of the times after doing it. And I
Hmm.
also see that a resentment is growing against that person with whom I have this challenge.
Hmm.
I do it for them, but then I feel very bad towards the situation and towards the person, and sometimes
Hmm.
even towards my own self because I didn't live up to what I wanted.
Right.
So when you recognize these emotions or these patterns, I think that
Hmm.
is the time that you know that your boundaries need to be there to protect you.
Exactly. Right. And also, must sometimes what happened that we don't know that we are overextending our boundaries. So, what are the signs that we have, and we get to know that we are overextending ourselves and saying yes too often?
Okay. Once you have done the work, if you look back and take a look at it, instead of feeling that you achieved it and feel a sense of achievement,
Hmm.
right? If you feel that you were very trapped in that situation,
Hmm.
that you didn't want to do it, but you didn't have another go.
Hmm.
So feeling trapped shows that it is not giving you happiness.
Exactly.
Feeling trapped also shows you that you are doing it only out of obligation
Hmm.
and the need to do what is right or what you
Hmm.
think is right,
Hmm.
rather than actually doing it because it is giving you happiness or it is building your relationship, right? And
Exactly.
with this also there is overexhaustion, there is
Hmm.
burnout that happens, there is
Right.
frustration and resentment again. So when you are
Hmm.
acknowledging and recognizing all this, you know that you have overextended yourself. And then the
Hmm.
person won't even be asking for your permission, right? So they are just dumping things on you, or they are just taking for granted that you will anyways do it,
Hmm.
and you don't know how to escape it. So then
Hmm.
you know that you have extended yourself beyond what needed.
Right. And as you said, now that saying no, sometimes we ourselves get into that guilt or think that it is being selfish. So, how can we say no without feeling this guilty or selfish?
Hmm. That's great. Because most of the times when we say no, our childhood conditioning is running within us, right?
Yes.
And it is very challenging to break that conditioning. So, for a
Hmm.
moment, let's just take a pause and ask, why is saying no important to me here? If I ask this question to myself before I say no, what am I
Hmm.
saying no to? If I'm saying no to only, because I have a resentment or because I want to get back, when I asked her something, she didn't do it for me. So my
Yes.
intention is I will also not do it for her
Could not
or
do
him.
it.
So I will say
But
no.
sometimes it is also na ki we don't want to do that work at that time. We
Yeah,
can do it
exactly.
later also, right?
Exactly. So the intention behind it matters. If your intention is protection towards self or
Hmm.
self alignment, that I want
Hmm.
to align myself first
Hmm.
so that I can be a more presentable and aligned person with the other,
Yes.
then you understand that I'm not saying no to hurt them, then I don't have to
Right.
feel guilty.
Hmm.
Right? I am just saying no to align myself so that I can be better with them. Instead
Hmm.
of thinking me saying no is a win to me and a loss to them, if I understand me feeling centered is a gift that I will
Hmm.
share with them, they
Hmm.
also benefit out of it. Because
Right.
then I am more calm, yeah, I'm more composed, our relationship is better. So it's a
Hmm.
gift I give to myself and to them.
Hmm.
So will you ever feel guilty if you're giving a gift to someone,
No.
right? So asking these two questions, why am I saying no? What's the intention behind this? And what am I trying to achieve out of it?
Right.
How does the other person benefit out of it?
Hmm.
When you answer these questions, you will find your answer and your guilt will automatically drop.
Exactly. And also, what is the best way? As we are saying, na, we need to ask this question. And what is the best way to handle this situation? We're saying no, we might feel guilty or self, or any technique is there, any process, how we can say.
Well, I think one of the ways is to first make that feel person feel acknowledged. Most of the times we are not feeling bad because the action we didn't take. We
Hmm.
are feeling bad because of how the other person felt. Right? When I said no, they felt
Right.
disappointed or so
Hmm.
whatever they are asking for, let's acknowledge their feelings behind it or let's acknowledge their need behind it. That I understand this is really important to you. However, if I do it now, then it is not going to work the best for us.
Right.
Right? A child may immediately want a chocolate. I understand you love chocolates, but given your health now, this will only
Hmm.
worsen things. So can we take it another time? So
Hmm.
the more you bring the acknowledgement into
Hmm.
perspective, it
Hmm.
changes the way person feels around no,
Right.
right? So adding that to your context of saying no helps a long way in managing those challenges.
Hmm. Right. Exactly. And also, how do we deal with the fear of rejection or conflict when we
Hmm.
start saying no?
Hmm. See, conflict happens most of the times when the other person feels unacknowledged by your no,
Hmm.
right? So the moment you start acknowledging their feelings and
Hmm.
also sticking to your boundaries,
Hmm.
that helps. See, for example, your partner wants to do something with you, or your
Hmm.
spouse wants to do something with you and you want to say no, or it's your in-laws or anyone in the family,
Hmm.
letting them know, I know that you really care about this and this is how you see it, but
Hmm.
right now this disturbs my internal space. Can
Hmm.
I think about it and get back to you?
Hmm.
So, acknowledging their emotions while also stating your emotions to draw a boundary helps them gain clarity. Sometimes people don't know when they are angry what they are angry about.
Hmm.
When
Right.
we state their emotions, when we state
Hmm.
our emotions, it instantly brings a balance in the situation and then
Hmm.
allows you to discuss it at a more understanding level than in going into a conflict.
Hmm.
Right? So that is
Right.
somehow we can manage conflict. Fear
Hmm.
of rejection, I would say we don't know what kind of people we are dealing with. So
Hmm.
always test the waters before you do it. If you have never drawn boundaries with a person and you want to draw it now and you don't know how the reaction is going to be, instead of
Hmm.
assuming that it's going to be the worst, take a
Hmm.
small situation, set a mini boundary first and see how the person reacts to it.
Exactly.
Right? So
Right.
then with smaller gradations, you can go to the bigger things. What we try to
Hmm.
do is if we have not set a boundary, we take the biggest issue to set the boundary first.
Right.
And then if the rejection happens, it's a big rejection, which we feel
Hmm.
unable to handle. Right? Let's do
Exactly.
it from one step at a time to reach to a place
Hmm.
where my confidence is also built now
Hmm.
and the other person is also tuned to handling this now. So
Hmm.
there is a much better, possibility of that boundary being respected than being
Hmm.
rejected. And
Exactly.
lastly, just
Hmm.
knowing that in spite of all this, if rejection happens, that it may be coming from a space of their internal insecurities rather
Right.
than what you need. So
Exactly.
just coming to that acceptance that, maybe sometimes not all our boundaries will be respected, and that is
Hmm.
something they will have to work with, and we will have to
Hmm.
accept for a time till they heal and work with, and see
Hmm.
how you want to go about it.
Right. So, the best way is to first acknowledge their feelings also and our feelings also, and then we can set the boundaries and we can
Exactly.
tell them what we want to do, right? And what are
Exactly.
the Uma? What are some of the polite but firm ways to say no
Hmm.
without damaging the relationship?
Okay. So anything that you start with a positive note doesn't feel threatening to the other person, and it builds a space for safety and connection for both.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Hmm.
whenever you want to set a boundary, especially with a loved one, use
Hmm.
a loving tone instead
Right.
of using a rough tone so that they feel unsafe the minute I'm starting to set the boundary. Use a
Hmm.
soft tone, use a loving tone, and
Hmm.
start with, I really love what you're telling me, if that
Hmm.
is what is the case. But maybe
Hmm.
I'm not able to do it right now for you. Can we
Right.
take it up another time?
Hmm.
Similarly, whatever it is, I
Hmm.
see that this is happening with you and I acknowledge it. I
Hmm.
love the perspective you are bringing into it.
Hmm.
However, can I choose to disagree with you right now? Because my opinion is not the same.
Exactly.
So start with a positive note,
Hmm.
start with a loving tone,
Hmm.
and then you can go on to say whatever it is that you want to say. So that
Right.
there is acknowledgement of both sides again. So that is
Hmm.
the key.
Hmm. Exactly right. And also, how can we say no in professional careers and professional where we are working? Because they're
Yeah.
also the people who are higher in a hierarchy. So we feel this.
Yeah. So when you are dealing with a person with a higher, hierarchy in your, there is a sense of authority that comes with it, right? So
Hmm.
as long as you know that you have proved yourself, before proving yourself, it's very difficult to draw
Hmm.
boundaries in professional areas, right?
Hmm.
So there is a certain level of credibility that you should have built before
Hmm.
people start respecting the boundaries you have. It's the same
Hmm.
with relationship also, right? If they value you, they will value your boundaries. If they don't,
Exactly.
then boundaries won't be valued as well.
Won't be
So
that.
to build that credibility in any relationship is important. And
Hmm.
once you have built that credibility, That is
Hmm.
where you will have that comfort of going back and putting your perspective and making a request with people
Hmm.
in higher authority. That I see
Hmm.
that you really want this, sir. However, I see that if we put it across like this, it works better. And given my
Hmm.
time, I can fit it into my sheet right now or my timeline right now.
Hmm.
Without credibility, if you try to draw boundaries, it's going to be challenging.
Hmm.
Use a professional tone and know how much time you have and what options that you are giving, which they can also work with. Yeah.
Uh, and also, how does learning to say no affect our mental well-being and self-respect also?
Hmm. I mean, this is a big one. When you learn to say no, you emotionally free yourself of a lot of cages that you have built around you, which
Hmm.
were making you feel trapped, which were making you feel like you don't have a say. By
Hmm.
breaking those cages, your confidence immediately increases.
Hmm.
And your sense of self, your self worth, hits another level the more you're able to draw boundaries with people,
Hmm.
right? And it
Right.
makes you feel very empowered in emotionally high situations.
Hmm.
And the more you feel that you are in control of the situations, you
Hmm.
only want to soar higher and higher from there.
Hmm.
So it really, really builds your sense of self and confidence to a great extent. And
Exactly.
that is the most important thing for our mental well being.
Hmm. Right. So this is very important which you said this line. And
Yeah.
also thank you so much Uma for this conversation, and it has been truly inspiring because you have told like by step, also you have told that how we can set the boundaries, how we can say no without guilt, and what are the best ways we can say no, right?
Yeah.
And your perspective on emotional well-being, resilience, how to build a credibility with the people who are higher in hierarchy and say no to them. It was very amazing, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and giving these practical tips
Thank you
to
so much
navigate.
for this opportunity, Shipra. It was amazing connecting with you and having this conversation with you.
Right.
Love you.
And thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And if
Thank you.
anybody wants to connect on this with Uma, because she's a emotional intelligence coach, I think you are also that. Uh,
Yeah, I am a trained life and relationship coach. I am also a counseling psychologist. So, yeah.
right. So if anybody wants help in that, they can connect with her, and I'll share her details in the description also. So thank you so
Thank you so
much
much.
for coming and joining in. Bye bye. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.